What's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg, and this is another Chance Encounter. Hey, what's up? I'm Dan Fredenberg. I'm a commercial real estate guy. I'm from the internet. We're seeing more properties like this being built in front of a house that's going to be torn down soon. I understand that there are power lines that are getting kind of close. What's up again? This is Dan Fredenberg, and that there is a commercial real estate building. I'm joined today with Amber Martin. How are you doing today, Amber?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, awesome. And I got some great news for you, Amber. Today, we are joined by my very favorite audience member. And why is my favorite audience member here? It's because this is a chance encounter where I interview commercial real estate investors, syndicators, buyers, sellers, all that kind of stuff. And why would I do such a silly thing? Well, if you want to be involved in private off-market deals, also known as 506B syndications, you have to have a documented prior substantive relationship before you can start telling people about those deals and getting them involved. And so it's important to know things like your level of sophistication, appetite for risk, and all that kind of stuff. But the important thing for you is you're going to learn how to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate deals. But before we get too into the weeds on that, Amber, do you want to say a thing or two about yourself before we get into the details of your business?
Sure. I'm a real estate broker. I'm in Southern California, and I've been licensed since 2007. Was an accidental landlord starting in 2001 when I couldn't sell a property because of 9/11. And kind of from that point on, actually bought some properties in single families, small multis in Austin, Texas. We owned in Charlotte, Phoenix, Vegas. Ended up selling most of those. Unfortunately, now I regret every single one of those sales, but we still have a couple units, Texas, Arlington, Texas, Southern California. We've got a rental down in Cabo San Lucas, and in the process of adding 69 more units right now on a multi. So
I love it. I love it. And so that brings us to the first segment of this show, which is are the five distinct motivations. Before that, I got to say, but wait, check your eight. Amber, I don't know if you can see through the camera and then down at the 8 o'clock, but the audience, they might have that hideous red subscribe button, and they really should do so. Okay, it's a stupid joke. I don't even know why I do it every single time. But the five distinct motivations, I've interviewed a whole whack of commercial syndicators, investors, and all that kind of stuff, and met even more. And everybody has their own unique why, but I found that I could categorize them into these five distinct ones. And it's really important to know because commercial real estate deals are complex. They take months. There's plenty of risks involved. And I need to see why my guest is actually going to follow through on their next deal. And these are the five ones. The first one I found is preservation of purchasing power. What's that all about? Well, some people already have a portfolio of assets that the proceeds of ownership is enough for them to make ends meet. And the only reason to make a new acquisition when you're already set up like that is if either inflation is eating away at the purchasing power of the cash flow, or if you can buy at a steep discount, like when there's an asset crash. That's not what I'm up to. That's not my motivation. My motivation stems from the fact that I got a background in technology. I used to work specifically in the CRM industry. I own an agency for CRMs, and it's the thing that's fancy about that. It's the e-commerce side. So it's more than just emailing. And we've been emailing 5 million emails a month for years and years and years and years, and processing all these tens of millions of dollars in transactions for my customers and clients. But the problem is you'll find that you're paying more in tax than anybody else when you're a high wage earner, high salary earner, anything like that. And so as I was watching my old boss flip 10 houses a month, I was like, well, how do I pivot where I can use my skills to something where I'm getting rewarded in the form of deployed capital, aka equity instead. So that's what I'm up to. But many people are attracted to commercial real estate because they want to fast track their retirement. But more specifically, it means they want to take control of their schedule. So that might mean working fewer months per year or fewer weeks per month, or it might actually be fast tracking retirement. But regardless, it's a dialing back that these people are out for. And that's definitely not everybody. Like some people, they're so ambitious, they're after that generational wealth. They want to buy their entire hometown. They want to make sure that their great grandchildren never have to hold a day job. And that's why they're making their acquisitions. And they're great people to have on your team because they're going to hustle into their 90s, unlike the ones that are looking to scale back. And the last group, they're also similarly motivated in the sense that they're going to be hustling into their 90s, but it's not so much about dollars and cents. They've picked a sector of society, or maybe it's the environment, maybe it's animals, who knows what it is, but they've realized that you need a financial backing that's quite substantial if you're going to make a really big impact. And that's the reason they're making these acquisitions. Now, Amber, as far as you're concerned, those five different motivations, what combination of those do you think describes you best?
Probably time. I mean, and also retirement.
Mhm.
I have nine children, so time is precious.
Nine.
Nine. I gave birth to six, and then I added three. So,
Oh, okay.
but we have a lot. So, time is valuable, and fortunately, I'm thankful that I started my brokerage and my kids were little. I've been home with them basically every minute of their lives, even though I'm sure they wish I would just go away. Oftentimes be a little less present, but it's been great, having my brokerage, a couple brokerages, and I've done a lot of property management. I'm able to kind of work at home and be with the kids. So that's been great. And then moving forward though, as the kids get older and start, moving away to college and this and that, I want to be able to travel. So I don't want to be locked down to a job here locally. I want to be able to work from anywhere. And real estate's kind of just, it's exciting to me. My parents never owned property, so I'm kind of self-taught and, just see the value in owning real estate. There's so much you can do and wealth that can be created. So
Perfect, perfect. All right, and the next question that I have for you, though, it has to do with tolerance for risk. And, many people come to commercial real estate and they're excited because there's big numbers floating around. They're like, I want some of that. But of course, there's risks involved, and I need to make sure that my guests understand that. And if you've ever been involved in a 506B deal, there's this big questionnaire. It's super invasive about your finances, asks you all kind of questions so that you end up knowing more about the person's financial situation than you do your own parents. And the risk question I thought wasn't very good. So that's why I use this one instead. Please fill in this blank. There are many popular investment asset classes, but I think blank is too risky. What's too risky for you, Amber?
personally, for me, I would say office. I was managing prior to kind of jumping in full time on building my own portfolio for about 3 years. I was managing a commercial portfolio, about 850,000 square feet of residential, or I'm sorry, retail, office, and medical. And office to me is a little scary, just because of through COVID, we had so many people working from home, and I feel like where people are getting pulled back into the office, but I don't think there's uh, going to be a full recovery. So I think there's going to be a lot of office conversions potentially into condos. And for me, that's beyond my risk tolerance right now. My sweet spot is definitely multifamily. I've managed so many single families, small multifamilies, and then large commercial projects. And my sweet spot, for sure, residential multifamily.
I absolutely love it. And you can just eat it up like this. That's so intense, right? That thing just kills me. But it's a great segue to let people know to subscribe. But it's right before we go through the Dan Does Deals Core Competency Cube. And it has the 6 different roles in a commercial deal. You can get your own copy of the die for free at dandoesdeals.com. And like a complete dummy, I don't even ask for your email address, which is like the worst thing you can possibly do from a marketing perspective. But I want nothing to stand in your way from being able to go download it, print it out, and practice this, because being able to effectively communicate on the subject of commercial real estate is the single determinant that I think makes the biggest difference in your commercial real estate career. If you can't explain it very well, you're kind of dead in the water. And so that's why I go through all 6 roles of the die in every episode of Chance Encounter. So go ahead and print that out, practice with your friends and family. But it only takes 2 minutes to go through all 6 sides. So let's start with the repositioners. The repositioners are acquisitions people. They're looking at a bunch of different properties. They're doing a bunch of different paperwork. And what are they doing with this paperwork, you may ask? Well, there's a fancy word for it. They underwrite the deal. That means they do the math. They do the arithmetic. They figure out, first of all, is this property even making the amount of money that the broker slash seller claims it is? Because it's like, I don't like your chances on that in most cases. And the repositioner's job is to figure out not only how much money is it making the amount that they say, but they're figuring out how to reposition it. In other words, change how the business is run or change the property so that it's making more upside. And one thing that's kind of funny about this business is there's all sorts of repositioners, but one thing that is part of repositioning is having financier and investor relations. So the financiers are the people who only deal with paper and money. So they are not one of the GPs. They're not on the ownership team. And the reason why every repositioner has financier relations, investor relations, is because if you can get a more advantageous loan, that goes straight to the bottom line of the business. If it's cheaper, then that means one of your expenses go down. So they're always on the lookout for more financiers. But the more traditional way that repositioners can make a change is by looking at the operations team and get those Benjamins to stop going down those toilets. But of course, there's a lot more to operations than just unclogging toilets and mowing lawns and collecting rent. One of the things that my background really helps and got me onto my GP team is the marketing and content creation, which that comes out if you have a vacancy rate issue. Like even if you do end up outsourcing, if you have bigger buildings, you'll outsource the property management to a third party. But if you just can't fill the units, then somebody on the team has to have some marketing chops to make sure that you can get those units filled, because that's going to be a big problem. But operations, because commercial real estate is such a competitive industry, it's probably not going to be enough upside for a lot of repositioners. So the next place they look is getting a contractor team involved to do a value add or to do renovations is another way of saying it. And the idea being that if you make the units much nicer with these improvements, then the next resident will be more than happy to pay more in rent than the previous one. And there's your upside. But of course, it's not as simple as just dumping a bunch of money into these apartments and then charging boatloads in rent, because that's not even going to work fairly often. Like there's no point in gold plating a toilet. You're never going to get a return on investment on that. And the problem, if you're like me, when it comes to hiring a contractor team, see, I don't know if you know this about me, but I'm from the internet. So that means I need locals. I need boots on the ground, somebody who can be there in an hour or two, because you can be certain that's not going to be me. Because if I have to be there in an hour or two, I'd still be stuck at the airport in that hour or two. So that's not going to be me. You need somebody to keep those contractors accountable, take pictures, make sure they're staying on schedule, they're not using subpar parts and whatnot, and also making sure, especially if you outsource your operations, make sure they're not cutting any corners. But when the repositioner has decided on a property, they turn around to the financiers and they say, hey, here's the property, it's 350 units, it's tens of millions of dollars. You don't have to happen to have, say, I don't know, tens of millions of dollars you want to lend us, do you? Well, the financier is going to have one burning question that I haven't answered, especially if you're in that scenario where you and a bunch of friends want to pool your resources and take over a commercial real estate property. And that is, they're going to say, who's your sponsor or who's your KP? What's that all about? Well, it's all well and good to pool your resources with your friends to take over a property, but you're not going to be eligible for a commercial loan unless somebody in the fold already owns a similar asset. Okay, so that means if you're trying to pick up a 350 unit apartment complex, somebody in the fold has to already own a 350 unit apartment complex. On top of that, you also need a balance sheet among the owners of at least the amount of the loan, and you need a certain amount of liquidity. But if you have all those pieces, you've got yourself a commercial real estate deal. So, Amber, you already mentioned you're coming from the brokerage side. It sounds like you're getting more into repositioning, and of course, everybody has investor relations. But what are the parts of the die? What are the core competencies that you expect to contribute to your next deal?
Well, definitely operations. I mean, I was owned a property management company and had about 700 units that I was managing before jumping into a big commercial portfolio. So definitely operations. I like the underwriting part though too. I like, kind of seeing where we can the acquisition piece of it. So I like all of it, but definitely primarily my background's operations.
Excellent, excellent. So then my next question has to do with the buy box. And what's that all about? When commercial real estate investors and syndicators are talking to each other and they say, hey, what are you looking for? What's ideal? What's your buy box? We're really asking about three main things. The first one's geography. Where is it? Which states, which counties, possibly even which neighborhood? Okay, that's definitely going to matter if you're going to call it a sweet spot. The second thing is going to be size. So Amber mentioned that she has experience in mixed use, several different types of commercial real estate. Generally, when guests come on to Chance Encounters, they're in multifamily, and the way that you find size or define size in that area, it's by unit count, because you're going to have a completely different type of group taking over 15 unit apartment complexes compared to the ones that are doing like 100, 150 and up. So the size is definitely going to matter. Some forms of commercial real estate, like industrial, goes by square footage though, but we need to know the size. But the third one is class. And one thing that's a bit of a pet peeve of mine, I don't like it when people use the same word to use more than one thing. And the term class, I separate it into two. The first one is condition. So condition is, how old is it? How beat up is it? Is it like in reasonably good shape, or is it like a no frills sort of situation, or is it full of luxuries and amenities? Okay, that's condition. The second one, it has to do with area, is what I refer to it as. And that means, what's the crime rate like where this property is located? And what are the school districts like where the property is located? And then, of course, how much traffic goes by on a given day. But both of those two, area and condition, the versions of class, they rank them the same way as in grade school, where A plus is at the top, and then A, and then A minus, and B plus, and so on. So Amber, as far as deals that are easier to say yes to, more difficult to say no to, what's your buy box? What you looking for?
Right now, I'd say kind of $5 to $10 million range. I'd love something like the 50 to 150 unit. And I like the design piece of it, making it pretty, basically. So I don't mind a C class unit, preferably, C plus, which I can convert to a B. Um, so, ideally, I like the Phoenix market, probably North Phoenix, like Prescott Valley, Surprise, because I'm in California, so it's 4 or 5 hour drive. I can go pop over there. But I do have properties in Texas. I do like South Carolina, North Carolina. I've owned there before. So
Mhm, mhm.
yeah.
Great, great. So you got the size, you got the areas, and then the classes. Yeah, you checked all the boxes. Good stuff. So then the next question then has to do with people, and multifamily commercial real estate. They're multifaceted, as you can tell, and because there are so many different sides, nobody is going to be all of the roles for any meaningful amount of time. And what does that mean? It means we end up putting together different teams. We're all eager to help each other, but because we also have our own unique skill sets, we're better suited to help some people more than others. So for me personally, because I'm from the internet, I'm always interested in meeting more locals. And then the other one, because of the foundations necessary for a guy like me to help with the marketing, content creation, or whatever else is going on in automation, the sponsors and KPs are the other people who I'm always on the lookout for. Amber, I don't know if you have any 506B deals. If you do, you can't mention them specifically. That's important. And you might not want to risk enticing investors, because the SEC might get ants in their pants. But you can talk about like beginners, people getting introduced or anything like that. But I don't want to put words in your mouth. Who in this industry do you think you can help more than others?
I think I can help kind of the syndicators. I personally, if I'm doing a deal, I still am at a point where I need a KP.
Mhm.
Um, I can take care of the operations. I can take care of a lot of underwriting. And I can also bring, I can definitely bring that to a team, but I'm also looking for, like you said, the locals. I'm looking for the acquisition guys that can go look at a property for me.
Mhm.
So
Mhm. Mhm. Great. So it sounds like it doesn't matter who it is. They should reach out, which is great. And for me personally, if you want to reach out, I got this distinct last name, so I'm super easy to find. I spend most of my social media time on LinkedIn, so that's the spot to find me. But if you scan this code, this QR code with your phone, that brings you to the FAQs page of 506BME. And 506BME is the platform I offer to document your substantive relationships with your investors, so that one of the things that you don't really know until you get kind of deep in this industry is once you get to a certain number of assets under management, the SEC will audit you and make sure that you're not publicly soliciting people and trying to use a 506B exemption. So it's important to have that documentation to prove that you actually knew people before, and you're not just pitching people all willy-nilly. So that's how to get a hold of me. Amber, what are the best ways to reach you? Is it through social media, or is there a website? How should they reach out?
All right, LinkedIn is best. Amber Martin. It's actually Amber Martin Abbott on LinkedIn, but I'm also Facebook, Instagram,
Mhm.
Amber Martin Abbott as well on those channels.
Okay, cool. And so like Amber Martin's probably fairly common. So, and as far as geography, it'll say something California. Like, can you narrow it down a little?
I'm in Orange County, so I'm half an hour south of Disneyland.
Exactly. There you go. Good stuff. And that brings me to the last thing, which is actually not for you, Amber. It's for you in the audience. It's a public service announcement. And if you've been watching this episode and you've been experiencing like searing pains in your eyeballs and like migraine like symptoms, I'm confident it's because of the hideous, it's brutal. Okay. The subscribe button, it's just down there. And all you have to do is you just click on it, and then it turns into the really cute one. You should see it. Like after you click it, it's very nice, and it doesn't cost you anything to click on it. All it actually means is that if enough people click on it, then YouTube will start to pay for these videos instead of me. And as far as you're concerned, all it means is my videos may show up on your list of suggestions, but you can feel free to ignore those. Quite frankly, I just appreciate the fact that you spent this time with me. Just like Amber, I appreciate you joining me today. This has been great getting to know you a little bit better.
You too. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks. Make sure you 506B me. Any syndicators, make sure you 506B me.
Hi.
Oh, hey, yeah, here's my code. You got your QR code scanner? Okay. Yeah, oh, yeah, just hold it right in the square there. Okay, cool. And now you hit open in browser.
Okay.
Okay. Are you already logged into 506B me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, so there's my video. So now I'm already on your watch list. So when you get back to your hotel, you can find out what my core competencies are and my level of sophistication. Sound good?
Yeah.
I love your hat. Real estate's a scam. That's really funny.
Yeah.
Nice meeting you.
You too.
506B me, everybody.